Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and it's a tag for you today. This is the "Oh, the places you will go" tag. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, I know it's not Tuesday, it's Friday, but I thought I'd do a tag today. I've had one of those weeks this week with lots of things, being sprung upon us thanks to life and adulting and all of that, which means I've just had no time to prep for anything else. And I got tagged in this lovely tag. The original tag is by Gareth over at Book Songs and Other Magic, and I was tagged by Lekden at Reading from the Depths and Gavin over at Genre Books. And yeah, this is a lovely little tag, and I thought, yeah, do you know what? This is just what I need for an easy Friday video. So this is the "Oh, the places you will go" tag, and all of the prompts are based on quotes from the Dr. Seuss book, "Oh, the places you will go." So there's a bookish prompt and a life prompt for each one, which is really nice as well. So yeah, we'll have a nice chilled little video sesh today with this fab little tag. So prompt number one then is "Which direction you choose" is the quote, and the book prompt is "What's the first place you go in a bookstore?" If it's Waterstones, which is one of my most frequented bookstores in Manchester, then I will probably head straight to the 3 for 2 fiction section, which is right inside the doors, so you can't miss it, and have a little look and see if there's anything in there that I might want to snaffle. But generally in any bookstore, I will immediately head to either the science fiction or the horror sections. Possibly science fiction first and then horror, or the other way around, depending on what I'm in the mood for. But those are the two I'm making a beeline for generally. The life prompt for this then is, what's the biggest life decision you've made that has impacted your life? There is no contest whatsoever in this one. It's transitioning. It's making the decision to, go down that route and transition. Yeah, that's like the biggest by far. And I don't think there'll ever be anything as big as making that decision. Okay, the next prompt then, the quote is, "Too smart to go down any not so good street." The book prompt is, what did you used to read that you don't read anymore? Philosophy books. When I was a postgraduate student, I read quite a lot of philosophy that connected into my studies, and I really enjoyed it at the time. But yeah, I haven't read any of that in years, and I don't think I'd go back to that now. It's quite full on. I'm a different sort of reader now. I get my philosophy from science fiction these days. That's where I like to access it. But yeah, I do still enjoy that kind of big thinking, but I like it to come in through my fiction instead. The life prompt is, what have you learned either as a hobby or in education that you value the most? I think sort of the sort of big picture thing really is learning that I can teach myself things, learning to be self-taught, I think. Having that confidence to just go out and find stuff out and teach myself how to do things. That all started when I kind of got into digital art and learned some digital art skills, courtesy of my best friend forever, if you like, Joe. He is an artist. I met him at university when I was doing my postgrad. And I wasn't really doing any art at all at the time, but I was interested in what he was doing, and certainly with things like Photoshop and stuff like that back in those this is the early 2000s really. Yeah, and I really got into this because it was, to start with, it was a way for me to actually make art or design things which didn't involve using my hand with a pencil and sketching stuff, because I'm not very good at that kind of drawing at all. I'm okay with technical drawing, but like anything freehand. But digital art programs, just there's a lot of flexibility there in how you do things, and you can find a way around things a lot easier. And it just clicked with me, I think. Um, and I kind of used it beyond my, well, once I kind of stopped my studies and kind of went back into technical theatre as a career. Um, I used it in stage design, lighting design, all that kind of thing, which I'd been trained in beforehand, but I'd been trained, with um, traditional kind of technical drawing essentially on that, and model making and things like that. So I used some more digital stuff in that, and then eventually I transitioned over to like full graphic design and art as a career, and used digital stuff all the time in that. But I taught myself all of it, over a number of years, just playing with things, finding tutorials online, asking friends, Joe and other friends that I knew who did digital design. And yeah, just that kind of finding that was the way that I learnt really well. And all of my other art skills that I developed over time, when it comes to traditional art and printmaking and things like that, painting, acrylic painting, again, I'm self-taught because that's just like, it's the way that I like to do it. I don't have the stress then of having to go to a class and stuff like that. That makes me quite anxious, things like that. So I do always start, whenever I want to learn something new, I start from the position of, okay, how do I teach myself this? And then when I get to a certain point, I might think, right, okay, I do need some actual formal training here. I do need some actual, traditional learning. And then I can kind of go into that with a bit of a baseline so I don't feel too rabbit in headlights. But yeah, just, I think it's confidence of it gave me confidence in my ability to learn. So yeah, digital art skills are certainly, I think, the kind of the genesis of that. So I do really value that massively. Okay, next quote then is, "You'll be seeing great sights." And the book prompt is, "Pick a book with an attractive cover." I will stick to just one this time. Usually I go overboard and like pick up 10 when there's a prompt like this, but I will stick to just one for today. And that is this one. A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. I also love the first book in this duology, which is A Psalm for the Wild Built, which also has a beautiful cover design. But yeah, I just really like these. They're warm, and I like the colour palette, and I just think they really kind of sum up the feel of the book as well. I think they're good design in that respect. Yeah, I love these. These are great. Okay, and the life prompt then is, what's the most beautiful place you've visited? It depends on what sort of beauty you're talking about, really. I find different things beautiful for different reasons. I think I absolutely love the wild kind of rugged landscapes that you find in parts of the UK. Like my favourite place, and the place that I will be moving to as soon as we can make it possible, which will be a while yet, but we'll get there, is the Cairngorms up in northern Scotland in the Highlands. It's just stunning. That the mountains are big and impressive, and it feels wild up there. There is actual wilderness up there. There are fantastic, beautiful lochs, in remote places. The forests up there are just incredible, sprawling, ancient pine forests. There's so much gorgeous wildlife as well, like pine martens and red squirrels and capercaillie and the deer up there, and eagles and osprey, and like there's just tons. There's absolute tons up there. It really is a stunning place. And following that in a close second would be Eryri, so Snowdonia, in North Wales. Again, rugged, wild, gnarly mountains. Sometimes really bleak when the weather's, in the winter, or then the weather's poor. It can feel bleak and inhospitable, and I find real beauty in that as well. It doesn't have to be all sunny and lovely. Bleakness really floats my boat, I have to say. For a more romantic beauty, I would say Bavaria. My wife and I went on holiday there a few years ago. I say a few years ago, like 2011. It was not long after we got married. It was the year after we got married we went there. It wasn't our honeymoon. We'd had an official honeymoon just after we got married the year before, which was in November, and we went to Amsterdam, and it was like a flipping skating rink. It was icy and cold and dark. It was fun, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like, you know, the romantic honeymoon. Whereas Bavaria, we went because we'd had some unexpected money from parents for our wedding present. And so we went, right, well, let's splurge then. Let's go somewhere special. And yeah, Bavaria was special, really romantic. And that we think of that as our honeymoon really now. It is absolutely stunning. Again, mountain lakes, beautiful forests, proper big mountains, because you are on the edge of the Alps there, just on the border with Austria and into the Tyrol region. Yeah, just kind of quintessentially, you know, sort of alpine. And some beautiful romantic castles and things like that as well. Gorgeous. In terms of man-made beauty, like cities, not a massive fan of cities, I have to say, but there are a couple that I do really like. One in this country is York, really old city, like lots of Roman history and Viking history. It's still got, you know, a good amount of its walls. It's a walled city, really like impressive minster. And yeah, it's a really beautiful city, York. Abroad, I would have to say the most beautiful city I've ever been to is Vienna. That's gorgeous. The architecture is amazing. Both the architecture right in the city centre and then some of the palaces that are kind of around the sort of the edge of the city. Some fantastic museums there as well. And it's not a really built up city. Wherever you are, you can still see the sky. It's quite a low city. Yeah, really, again, romantic city, Vienna, really romantic city. It's a beautiful place. Okay, next up we've got "You'll be the best of the best" is the quote. The book prompt is, what do you feel confident that you know a lot about with regard to books? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I don't think I know a lot about anything to do with books. My book knowledge is very much like my general knowledge, in that it is a mile wide and an inch deep. I know lots of bits about lots of different aspects of like books, writing, publishing, etc. But I don't have a specialism. I don't have a really in-depth knowledge of any particular one area or genre or anything like that. I have obsessions. I do tend to have, you know, sort of periods of being sort of fanatical about things. So I do learn a decent amount of stuff about things, but then I'll move on to the next shiny thing over there, you know, that's interested me. And I think to really get an in-depth knowledge, you kind of have to focus a bit more than I do on one particular area for any given time. So yeah, no, I would say that I have a decent enough knowledge of the bits that interest me, but it is a very like shallow knowledge, generally speaking. But that's the way I like it. I'm quite happy to have lots of bits of knowledge of lots of different things. Okay, life prompt then is, what would your specialist subject on Mastermind be? Yeah, although I am a generalist, as I say, I do have kind of fanatical sort of things, obsessions. I certainly have sort of obsessive tendencies when I find something that interests me. And so there are a couple of things that I'm a little bit of a nut about. A couple of TV series could make good specialist subjects on Mastermind. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that's definitely one I could hold my own in. And The West Wing, definitely one I could hold my own in. And then as a bit more of a niche area, I think the video games of Bethesda Game Studios between the years of 2006 and 2016. Outside of those years, no. But the games that sit within that time period are ones that I have obsessed over. And so I could hold my own there with Mastermind. Next quote then is, "Accept when you don't." So following on from the previous one. And the book prompt is, what kind of books do you feel that you don't relate to? On the whole, I mean, there'll be books in this genre that I can relate to, but romance, I think, is the one that is least appealing to me, because I find a lot of it I don't feel like I relate to, that I've read. Specifically real world heterosexual romance. Certainly stuff that kind of upholds, plays on, kind of stereotypes. If I'm going to read romance, I want it to be fun and queer and probably a little bit off the wall, probably in a fantasy setting with monsters and stuff. Yeah, it's got to be something a little bit bonkers for me, and it's certainly got to be queer romance. I think that's where I can relate more to the characters and the relationships and the kind of the sort of challenges that you might find within those relationships. But yeah, just some of the kind of the mainstream hetero romance stuff. Yes, can't relate. Okay, the life prompt then is, what's something you've stopped doing or that you've given up on? Given up on? I don't think I've really given up on anything. I suppose the closest, I guess you would say, is like I've stopped or given up on trying to make enough money from my art to live on. Because in the current climate, it is just not feasible, nor is it feasible for me to do that and have the life that my wife and I want, essentially. But it doesn't feel like a failure. It's just a shift. I've moved to something else, which I'm really interested in. And I haven't stopped making art, or at least I've stopped making art for now, because I just haven't got the time at the moment, and it's not a priority because I'm not trying to earn money from it. But I will absolutely make art in the future because I love doing it, and it'll become a hobby more. Or in the future, I might make something and then find that I can sell it, and so it's always an option. That's the thing, is I wouldn't say I've ever given anything up or stopped doing something permanently. I think for me, a lot of the stuff that I do is kind of cyclical, kind of works on a cyclical sort of basis. It's like, as I say, I flit around a bit. So I'm quite happy to stop something and then know that I'll come back round to it at some point, that something else will take over for a bit, and then, I'll find my way back to hobbies or what have you. So yeah, I'm not giving up on anything necessarily. Things that I've stopped, from a positive perspective. Gavin said this in his video as well, actually, is I've seriously not stopped but reduced my news consumption, certainly in terms of TV news media. I basically really limit myself now to sources where I can read the news and I can read the facts. I want the facts of what is happening. I don't want to listen to any of them on the news. I don't want to listen to all the blather and the lies and the horrible things and the horrible way things are being said. I just want to know what's going on, and I want to know the facts so that I can keep abreast of things and be vigilant. But yeah, so I've massively reduced kind of my news consumption, and just my kind of engagement with politics, I think, has reduced generally. It's not stopped altogether, but it's certainly not what it used to be. I used to be really into politics and the news and all that kind of stuff, and very positive about it, but not these days, no. But that's been a really positive kind of, sort of giving up, or not giving up, but cutting back on the news, because my mental health is better and I'm far less ragey than I was even, sort of 6 months ago. Okay, next prompt is The Waiting Place. The book prompt is, name a book you're excited to read that's on your TBR. All of them. But specifically, I think anything, and any of the Adrian Tchaikovsky novels that I've not read yet, of which there are many, because he's written flipping tons, and that's great because it means I've still got loads to dig into. So yeah, any of his stuff, I'm loving his stuff so much at the moment that I'm kind of excited to read anything that he's written. But specifically, I think for his stuff, there's one that's literally just out yesterday called Shroud. that's up there. I want to get that read soon. I'll probably start that early March. But yeah, anything by Tchaikovsky is like peak excitement levels for me. Okay, life prompt then is, what in general are you looking forward to the most this year? The whole process of publishing Trash Tales, an anthology of trashy fiction, for sure. I've loved doing that so far. We are now just entering the copy editing phase of that, which is my big bit of it. And yeah, I'm loving it, and I'm really excited just to kind of see, like, experience the rest of that process and see it come out in August. That'd be awesome. And then on the kind of personal relaxation, rest and relaxation side of things, got 2 trips to Scotland planned this year. One in May to the Trossachs, which is an area that I've never been to before, in central Scotland. So that'll be, or the Central Highlands. That'll be really nice to see somewhere different. And then in September, we are going back up to the Cairngorms, and yeah, can't wait to go there. It's like going home. Leaving to come back here is quite difficult because it's just, we want to stay there, we want to live there. But yeah, it'll be lovely to get up there and experience that at a different time of the year, because we've only ever been up in the spring before, so it'll be nice to see it in the autumn. Okay, and the final prompt then is balancing act. Talk about balancing your time between general life and putting out content on BookTube. It's very tricky at the moment. I try and keep up with my two videos a week, mainly by batch filming on one day, so I can kind of get things out of the way, and then doing my editing kind of in the evening. But things are getting more busy for me, and so like this week has just been like, there's been loads of stuff going on, life, adulting, that kind of thing. I know there's more life stuff that's going to hit me in a few weeks' time, which means it's going to make it more difficult for balance in that respect. I think I've got to the point though, to be honest, where I'm just kind of comfortable allowing my BookTube output to be dictated by whatever else I've got going on. I'm flexible with it. Excuse me. It does need to fluctuate, I think, based on what else I've got going on. I used to be a bit more like, no, I need to get this done and I need to get that done for BookTube, and I've got to get these out in time. And it's like, no, at the moment I obviously want to get videos out, but if I need to drop back to 1 a week, then so be it, because it's a hobby and it's meant to be enjoyable. I don't want there to be any pressure with it from me, but I don't want there to be any kind of, I feel my own pressure to do it. So it's a work in progress, essentially, balancing general life and BookTube, and it will just fluctuate as I need it to. I think that's the only way that I can go forwards and kind of keep it as a nice chilled hobby, which is what it's meant to be. Okay, so those are all the prompts. The only thing to do is to tag some folks. So I got 3 folks to tag today. I will tag Debs at Raina Read Stuff, Jen at Literary Love 123, and Nick at Dr. Cranky Pants Reads. So if any of you 3 would like a crack at this one, then do jump on board. But that will do from me today. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Do drop your thoughts in the comments below. It's always lovely to hear from you. I'm not sure when I'll be back with another video, whether it'll be Sunday this week or whether it'll be a week today, next Friday. But whenever it is, I do hope you'll join me for that then. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.